Welcome back, and thank you for joining this HID Global Tech Talk. Now, HID are known for powering the trusted identities of the world's people, places, and things. They have products to help people to transact safely, work productively, and travel freely. Now, HID Trusted Identity Solutions give people convenient access to physical and digital places and connect things that can be identified, verified, and tracked digitally. HID say that millions of people around the world use their products and services to navigate their everyday lives, and over 2 billion things are connected through HID technology. Kind of mind-boggling number that. But HID work with governments, educational institutions, hospitals, financial institutions, industrial businesses, and some of the most innovative companies on the planet. Now, they're headquartered in Austin, which is in Texas in the USA, and HID Global has over 4,000 employees worldwide and operates international offices that support more than 100 countries. HID is also an ASSA ABLOY group brand. So we're going to be seeing a presentation now from Jim Burton, who will then be joining us afterwards. So as always, if you have any questions for Jim, please do write them in the chat box and we'll make sure that we put them to him while we have him live. But first, let's watch his presentation.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me on this Tech Talk, when today we're going to look at high security credential technology. So this is what we're going to cover off on the topics today. The first thing we're going to look at is the evolution of credential technology, and this is a little bit of a history lesson. Then we'll look at the essential elements of a secure credential program, which is absolutely key for any access control deployment. Then we're going to look at the HID Seos product portfolio, and then we're going to finish off looking how we're going to migrate to a high security credential platform and what the best practices are in place for that to happen most successfully. So let's start with the history lesson. I always like to start with this slide when I'm talking about credential evolution, because it really does present a picture of the timelines of when these credentials have been to market, how long they've been around, and how the credential technology has changed over the generations. So if we go back to the early 1990s, 30 years ago now, this is when really access control credential technology became contactless for the first time. So this is where we got what we'd now see as our typical access control experience. And back in the early 90s, everything was low frequency, 125 kilohertz, or round about that frequency. And it was now referred to as prox or proximity, which meant that you didn't actually have to swipe the credential through a reader. When you got the credential within proximity of the reader, it will read the data and the number would be relayed to the access control platform. So that was where it all began. And then round about the year 2000 or slightly before, we saw what's now known as smart cards come into the marketplace of access control, or smart card technology. When we went down smart cards, we increased the frequency. So you'll see straight away that we're no longer at 125 kilohertz. We're now at 13.56 megahertz, so a much higher frequency. There's a number of reasons for that, but the primary reason is so that more data can be transferred between the credential and the reader, but to keep the read time something comparable to what we got used to. But with the invention of smart cards, this was the first time that we started to have encryption. Okay, so there was a set of keys in the reader and a set of keys in the credential, and those keys match, and that was to unlock the data before the data was read. Now, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago now, so it's a considerable period of time, and it's perhaps not as quite sophisticated as it once was back then, but this was the first time that we got smart credentials. We got microprocessors in the credential, and we got some memory to be able to store data. Okay. So if we jump forward another 10 years, this is where things started to get a lot more sophisticated. This is when you'll see the generation of products from HID known as SE, or secure element based products. So I-class SE, multi-class SE, and the credentials that went along with that. So we've got Seos, we've got I-class SE, we've got Desfire SE. Okay, and SE means this, it basically explains the way that the data was stored on that credential. Something that's termed as a secure object or a secure identity object. And this is a very sophisticated way that HID store that application data on that credential. to ensure that it uses the best practices available out there and the strongest cryptography algorithms, things like AES-128, for example. And it's a layered security approach, so that we have multiple layers of keys to get through to retrieve that data and pass that data back down. And this really is the utmost with regards to secure credential technology. So how do we go forward from that? How can we improve on that level of encryption, that cryptography algorithm? So the way we improve on that is with the fourth evolution of credential technology, and this is HID Seos. And HID Seos differs to all the credential technologies that came before it. I mean, the first thing is, it's fundamentally different. Is that if you look back to all previous credential technologies prior to Seos, they're all tied to a chip, a silicon chip. Okay, that silicon chip contained within that credential was key. Okay, now Seos is a software-based credential technology, and by being software-based, it allows for a lot more flexibility with the approach of using Seos. So we're not just tied to traditional form factors. We're not just tied to a particular particular chip. We're not tied to a particular plastic card or a key fob. Seos as a technology is adaptable, it's portable, and it's mobile, which means that it can be used for mobile phone technology, it can be used for wearables, and it's very much future ready technology as well. So why move to secure credential technology? I mean, what are the motivating factors for doing it? Well, the primary factors, there's a few, but I mean, you could probably say that vulnerabilities is probably the primary factor, or the fact that the previous credential technologies have become, more easy to clone, more easy to copy, more easy to spoof. And you only need to do a quick search on the internet, really, about how do I clone a proximity card, and you'll come across various websites, or how do I clone a MyFair Classic card. There'll be various websites. For example, we've got some here. I mean, if we look at just the one in the top right hand corner, for example, that's a cloner that you can buy from Amazon for $15 or less. And what that'll do, that will allow you to actually physically copy a proximity card and replay that, or effectively record it and then write it to one of these blue key fobs you can see here, and then you've replicated the card straight away. That's it. So you can assume the identity of that person. Okay. There's also things like Copy a Key, which is essentially a vending machine that will replicate your cards for you as well. So obviously we don't really want this. This goes against what secure identity is all about, the fact that you can easily copy them, or you can spoof them. So we want to move to a high security credential technology, one that's more secure. Okay, and there's a few things that we need to consider when we're going on this journey to ensuring that we offer the best and most secure credential technology. So the things we need to look at is standard-based cryptography. Okay, so HID Seos is based on open standards, and the beauty about a standards-based cryptography rather than a proprietary scheme is, if the algorithms, the cryptography algorithms that the credential technology is based on get improved because they're open standards, then naturally the credential technology gets improved as well. So Seos, I already mentioned Seos, is independent technology from the underlying hardware chip. So this allows for it to be flexible. This allows for it to use it for many different applications, okay? And the other thing, of course, is to consider enhanced privacy protection. And with enhanced privacy protection, such as offered by HID Seos, this means that there's no data that can be read in an insecure and unsecure manner. Okay, so you always need that cryptography key set to unlock that secure data. So what we need to think about, the essential elements, of a security credential program or secure credential program. And really, secure credentials need to form the foundation, the basis, the key for your entire access control system deployment. Okay, so just if you have a insecure credential technology forming the foundations for your system, then that is a weakness in the entire system. Okay, so we need to address that. And we have this pyramid approach, and this pyramid really does spell it out in the order of what we need to think about for ensuring that the credential technology is a holistic approach. Everything's linked together. So for a start, the base, the foundations, we need to specify our secure technology. Okay, that's the foundation. That's the most key thing here. Once we've specified that, for example, HID Seos, then we talk about key management. and how this is how we actually lock that data in, what we use for key management. We have the layered security approach of the secure identity object. Already mentioned that. We've talked about the privacy, the fact that there's no identifiers on that credential that can be read in an insecure manner. So even things like the UID, or the universal identifier, the manufacturer chip serial number, are randomized with Seos, so it's of no value. Okay, choose a track format, so we know that the data is unique. The card edge, yeah, and the wiring. Okay, and this forms, so you can see right up to the top where the wiring is the least significant part. The grounding of the secure technology is key here. And once we've decided that, and we've got our secure smart card technology, then we can also look at using it for other things as well outside of physical access control. Okay, so what we've got this scenario, and it's always spoken about, the one card approach. So we want to use this one smart card for everything. We don't want to just use it for our physical access control. We want to use it for printing. We want to use it for cashless vending. And we want to have the ability of multiple form factors to do that. So if I go on to the next slide here, this is a good example. This slide here shows some of the applications that you can have. And by the different colored squares, that represents different applications that are stored on this smart card credential. Okay, so we've got the first one, we've got physical access, you know, getting through doors, what we're talking about here. Then we've got more and more, we see secure print or requirement for secure print, but we've got a separate application for secure print with its own separate keys. So never the twain shall meet. Okay, we've got time and attendance. So, you know, the clocking in, clocking out machine. Then we've got cashless vending, another example of where this one card solution can be used. And then finally, although this doesn't by any means cover all the possibilities that you can have with this smart card, but we have logical access control, as in logging onto your PC in the morning. So you really have got this one card solution that you can use throughout the day for everything that you need it to use for. And that's the joys of adoption of a smart card credential technology. So let's have a look at the HID Seos portfolio. Okay, let's see what we've got, because obviously, you know, we want to move from a previous technology, migrate to a smart technology, or we could be starting out with a new site, a greenfield site, and we're choosing a credential technology. So we offer various form factors. We offer various from clamshell, key fob, standard ISO white plastic cards, you know, for printing onto. But we also offer different memory sizes. If you wanted to have a biometric template stored on there, for example, if you want to have multiple applications stored on there, for example. And of course, we offer multi-technology cards as well. And multi-technology cards, I'm going to come on to that in a little bit more detail as we move forward, but multi-technology cards are particularly good for the migration scenario where you have some legacy readers that read one technology and you want to fit new readers that read another as you go for a migration platform. So, and of course, mobile technology, very much, you know, gaining more and more momentum, and very much sort of the technology of the future for access control credentials. So let's go through the migration process a bit now. So I'm back to this slide here. It's obviously a favorite slide of mine, but I'm just going to skip through again. And the reason why I brought this slide back in is because I want to basically show how we migrate from 1990s, you know, our 125 kilohertz procs, or possibly from our 2000s with our MyFair credential, or possibly from our 2010s with our iClass SE credential, and we want to move everything into a Seos world. So we've got the best in class with regards to cryptography, and we've got the best in class offering that we can for flexibility and portability moving forward. So let's have a look at this scenario. Okay, so what we've got here, if I fill out all the blanks, okay, so we've got left hand side, we've got 3 credentials. Okay, we've got multiple credentials. We've got our 125 kilohertz procs card. Okay, and then we've got the procs reader. That's a typical HID procs reader dating back to the sort of 1990s. That's a procs point plus reader. You know, it read it at 125 kilohertz, no encryption. We know that. We've already talked about that. Okay. Then if we go to the bottom, we've got the HID Seos credential. It's a classic example of a Seos card there, and we've got our HID Signo reader. You know, the next generation of reader that covers a wide range of credential technologies. So it's very much a Swiss Army knife of readers. So we can read multiple credential technologies from that reader, which is all about making this migration process possible from our legacy credentials to a secure credential, but making it seamless, making it as easy for the end user. We want their experience at the door to be the same or better. You never want that experience to be worse as you move forward. So it's all about delivering an at the door seamless experience. So we've got two scenarios. Okay, we have scenario one where we can update the readers. Okay, so we can update the readers from the HID Prox reader to a HID Signo standard profile reader, and we can continue to read their existing cards, okay, their existing Prox cards. And then we can issue new cards, and the new cards, the Seos cards, will be then read by the same reader, and it's nice and seamless. Okay, and then the other scenario is we have a dual technology, we're perhaps adding another site or adding more readers, or we're expanding, and then we offer a dual technology credential. So this is a credential that contains both HID Prox and HID Seos. Okay, so Seos is read by the new reader, Prox by the old reader, and then you gradually replace all the old readers for HID Signo readers until the point of where you are purely on Seos, and then you can just go from a dual technology credential to a single technology Seos credential, and you're seamlessly migrated across, and you've dealt with all the risks associated with using legacy credential technology. So I'm just going to conclude now. So low frequency credential technology, as I've discussed, leads to vulnerabilities and basically creates barriers for scale and modernization, because you can't use these multiple applications. You can't use this single card approach. Okay, it's key when we upgrade that we find a solution that offers more security. For example, HID Seos, because we can have more applications, there's more choice, including mobile and also biometrics as well, because we can store biometric templates on our smart credentials. And then it's the most important thing with anything like this is to create a transition plan. So have a scope of works that you need to carry out to complete the migration as seamlessly and as cost effective as you possibly can. So I finished presenting for now, so I'm going to open up for questions, and then I'm looking forward to answering for you. So thank you for listening.
Well, I'm happy to say that I have Jim Burton with me live now. Welcome, Jim, to our Tech Talk this morning. How are you doing?
Thank you, Geeta. Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, and you are in sunny Derbyshire, is that right?
I am. It's sunny today, that's for sure. It's not always like this, but it's certainly sunny today.
Excellent. Well, we've had a lot of questions come in from our lovely audience who are watching wherever you are in the world. So thank you for those questions. So let's get started, Jim.
Great. Yes, let's do it.
Few things to talk about. So the first question is, how are more modern credential technologies harder to clone, or is it just that the hacking industry hasn't caught up yet?
Well, that's actually a really good question. I mean, the fundamental difference between modern secure credential technology and the legacy credential technology is the levels of encryption that are used. So if we go back to when the industry sort of started 30 years ago now for HID, and we had low frequency proximity based technology, 125 kilohertz, there was no encryption at all. Okay, so it was just raw data that could be copied from one and then transferred onto another. And there was no way of it knowing which credential it was stored on. But nowadays we use sort of industry standard cryptography, things like the advanced encryption standard 128B or AES 128 as it's known. And they are, certain standards that make it, well, basically, as of today, impossible to clone. Now, we can't say that it'll always be impossible. Of course not, because things change, technology improves, other devices come available. But as a business, as HID, we move forward with the times. So we're always, adaptable, and we're always able to adapt our products to compensate for any future vulnerabilities should they occur.
Great, thank you. And thank you for that question. Really good question there.
Really good question.
And just also to say, we're getting questions in, which is fantastic. But if you haven't asked one and you'd like to, please do pop it in the chat box on the top right-hand corner of your screen, and I'll put those to Jim. And so, Jim, the next question is, what does cryptography actually mean? What should I look for as an end user when asking about this?
Okay, so again, it's a good question. Cryptography is basically an exchange of keys. So what happens is, the easiest way to think about it is you've got data that's stored on the smart credential, and that data is locked behind a key, okay, a very large key when it comes to AES 128. And then that matching key also resides within the reader. And really what happens is, when the credential becomes within range of the reader, a transfer of keys takes place. That satisfies the requirements to unlock the data, and then the data is transferred over. So there's two sort of scenarios, if you like, because you've got the credential technology, just for example, HID, Seos that I talked about in the presentation, and then there's the data that's stored on the credential technology. And you will find that there's lots of technologies in the market, all high frequency technologies. And the thing to ask for from an end user perspective is to ensure that you are reading the secure data from the credential and not just the manufacturer's serial number. That's the thing that's really key, because you will find that a lot of credential out there just read not the secure data, they just read a generic open chip serial number. So that's where the cryptography comes in, and it's just a method of locking the data, and the data can only be unlocked by a reader with matching cryptography keys.
Thank you, Jim. Really well explained as well, because I've always wondered what cryptography is as well, and I think I understand it now. So thank you, and I hope that's helped whoever answered that question. And so thank you for that question. So another one that we have is, with the new policies and smart cards involving encryptions, why are we still having cards intrusions, and what's the future protection against theft? So I think it's building on a previous question that we had.
Yeah, so I mean, what we tend to do now, and with access control credentials moving forward, is, if you look historically, there's always been proprietary schemes used. Okay, so rather than using open standards and open approved standards, such as AES or NIST or various other standards, that open standards that we adhere to, if proprietary schemes were used, and those proprietary schemes were compromised, then there was no way of those being retrospectively repaired, not being updated through the industry. Now, the beauty of using open standards, and really what we use is the same standards you'd find for biometric passports, for example. It's all based on the same standards. If those standards were ever to become compromised, then they're updated, the standards themselves are updated, and therefore, because the standards are updated, then the technology that's based on those standards is also updated as well, as part of the same process. So the days of access control being based on proprietary schemes is thankfully something that is now passing us by. But you'll find that historically, if you look back for the previous, I mean, we only really got smart credentials from about the year 2000. So we've only had it for about 20 years. The first 10 years, we had no smart credentials at all. But the stuff from the early noughties or the late 90s was always based on non-open standards and proprietary schemes. So that's the sort of the seismic shift, if you like, with regards to secure credential technologies nowadays and the adoption.
And I know that you explained some of the chronology of how the system has changed at the beginning of your presentation. So if you've just joined us and you missed Jim's presentation, it will be on demand, so you can watch that back. I've got another question for you, Jim, and this is about mobile access,
okay,
which I know is very topical at the moment.
It is, yeah, very much so.
And they asked, do you think mobile access will be the future of access control, or are hybrid solutions the way forward?
Access control, or mobile phone access control, will certainly play a very large part in the future of credential technology. I mean, I can't say it'll be a replacement, because I don't think it will. Because I mean, the thing, we've had the traditional form factors of plastic cards and key fobs for such a long time now that it's pretty much ingrained in society. But the mobile phone access control offers a lot of things over and above what the traditional smart credential does. It's the same level of security. That's the first thing. So HID mobile access is based on Seos. The Seos is the same technology as what we use in our physical credentials. So from a cryptography keys we're talking about, from the standards, everything's the same from that perspective. But the thing where mobile phone technology really wins out is it's the issuance process. As in this, you don't actually physically have to receive a card, you don't have to send anything in the post, you don't actually have to go somewhere or anything like that. It can all be done seamlessly over the air, securely. It can also be revoked over the air as well. In the event of the phone getting lost or stolen, then that credential can be revoked automatically as well. And then the other beauty is then it can be reissued, so you don't have to pay for that over and over and over again. You know, whilst ever you've got a subscription to HID mobile access, and you change your phone or you lose your phone, or even for temporary visitor access, you know, it's all these things, whereas plastic cards get lost and there's a cost incurred to replacing them, all that is resolved with the adoption of mobile access technology. So yeah, I think moving forward, we're going to see more and more of it. And the sort of the last 12 months has really seen a ramp up in the adoption of the technology, and people are seeing it as a safe return to the workplace philosophy. And we're seeing a lot of large companies adopting mobile access with that very much in mind. So yeah, it's here to stay, that's for sure.
Yeah, lovely. And I know this subject around mobile access is coming up quite a bit in our tech talks. So like you say, it's not going away, and it seems like it's something that's being harnessed now to help. So I've got a couple more questions actually. So I've got about 5 minutes left, so I'll try and get them to you. This one asks, because of the open standards, is there now a move towards greater integration with CCTV, intruder alarms, and other building management systems?
I mean, this is more from an access control, or from a building management or BMS system perspective. I mean, this has always been something that's been around for a while. This sort of one system, fully integrated intrusion, CCTV, and access control. And I suppose now we are sort of at that stage now where it's becoming more mainstream. There's been companies doing it for years, they really has, but it's never really been the fully integrated solution. But I think now, I mean, this is moving away a bit from the secure credential technology, but more just from a systems perspective. We are seeing a lot of sort of key manufacturers now, likes of Honeywell and Genetec, just to name two, that do these fully integrated systems, whereas everything they are a one-stop provider. So yeah, I think it's a way we're going. I also think that the use of cameras in general security, I mean, we're seeing them all over the place anyway, but I think the future of access control will be the face will get in there somewhere. It's not at the moment. I mean, the technology is not quite there yet for wide scale adoption, but I think probably in 15 years time, it'll be the norm. So yeah, I think, and then it is a fully integrated system. So yeah, I mean, I think the future will involve that somewhere. We'll have to wait and see.
Great, thank you for that question. And so another question for you, Jim. What do you think of the appropriate purification for mobile verification way, in brackets, blue or NFC, ?
Okay, right now, we use, with HID mobile access, we use the Seos secure communications protocol, both when we use NFC and we use BLE. Okay, so it's always based on the same level of security. You find that there's multiple solutions for mobile access in the marketplace. I mean, HID, we've had ours out now since 2015. So our solution is fairly mature, really, and it's certainly the most mature one in the market. But there is other solutions out there that are based on, key negotiation and Bluetooth protocol, for example, which is not the one that we use. And I know there's some concerns over using the Bluetooth low energy protocol for things like that. But I mean, because the fact that we base ours on our, the same standards, we base our AS128, and every Seos transaction is digitally signed, so we know our solution offers the highest possible levels of security with regards to cryptography. So from that perspective, there's no concerns, and there should be no risk of using either protocol. I mean, BLE in itself offers the possibility for longer range, whereas NFC really is near field communication, so it really is for practically on top of the reader. So there's some advantages from that perspective. But I mean, we offer both with our solution, so we're not one or the other. It's the readers support both the technologies.
Great, thank you, Jim. And we have run out of time. Thank you so much for answering all those questions. And if you have a question and it's not been answered, don't worry. You can ask a question about the product, about HID Global. There is a representative at HID Global, their visitor booth. You can go to that, the exhibitor booth, should I say, and then you can ask away any other questions. Jim, thank you so much for your presentation this morning and for being involved in our tech talk. Talk. And I hope that you can enjoy some of the sunshine today wherever you are. We still have another Tech Talk to come, so do stay with us. That's at 12:15, and that will be with NEDAP. So look forward to seeing you then. And thanks again, Jim.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.